Hello all and welcome to the long overdue review of Arcadia's 160 scale final showdown version of DD Ivanov's SV-51 as seen in Macross Zero. That's a mouthful. This is the first Arcadia SV-51 release, having hit shelves in August 2019 for an MSRP of 36,800 yen. That's a lot of yen. Unfortunately, it was plagued by a common manufacturing defect where two of the same ankle were installed rather than the appropriate right and left. For all your not Macross needs, I recommend shopping at Big Bad Toy Store, and when you do so by clicking my link, you help support this channel. You won't find Macross products at Big Bad Toy Store because the Japanese rights holder only allows domestic distribution due to an ongoing conflict with Harmony Gold. This conflict means that, if you got an SV-51 with a bum leg, you needed someone inside Japan to help you get the replacement parts. Maybe your retailer, who knows. I was fortunate to get some help, and I've made a video where you can see me going through the steps to install the new leg, and you can click the card right now if you got a replacement leg and would like to put it on your toy. If you're currently shopping for this toy, make sure to get assurances that the leg is correct. This review is going to assume that the toy has proper ankles. The toy comes in an attractive box that's a bit bigger than I would have liked, but understandable given the size of the toy. There's a flip-top lid allowing you to enjoy the toy while leaving it in the box. If you pull out the tray within, you'll find the toy and a pilot figure, two wing-mounted boosters, two hybrid micro-missile launchers and fuel tanks, two micro-missile launchers, two medium-range missiles, a gun, and three display stand adapters that correspond with the sold separately Arcadia display stand. In a pouch behind the tray, you'll also find instructions. I've put a full scan of them up on anymoon.com. There's also stickers, so maybe Arcadia will do a premium finish version someday. And there's the customer service flyer you'll need if you got a bum leg or run into any other snags. This toy is huge. At 38 centimeters long in fighter mode, it's the same length as the original Yamato 160 scale toy, but at 452 grams, it's nearly 120 grams heavier than its predecessor. As you can see, it's also quite a bit bigger than the VF-0 and mammoth in comparison to the VF-1. Batroid mode is a similar story, with the toy being nearly 5 centimeters taller than the VF-0 and almost a full 10 centimeters taller than a VF-1. Here's a little line art comparison I threw together of fighter mode. You can see that both Yamato and Arcadia really did a great job here. Where the Arcadia improves upon the Yamato is in filling some of the gaps, specifically the gaps around the head. We do get integrated landing gear to open up the back ones. We have these two bays here, and then when you just reach a fingernail in, there's a little hook that lets us pull this out. It locks into position, has a spinning rubber tire on a metal wheel, so that's all nice. Moving to the front, we just open these bays here and we pull out, and then there's that landing gear, again spinning rubber tire, so that's nice. Flipping the toy over, we do have an opening canopy on the cockpit. We do have that removable pilot figure who is a better sculpt than we had previously with the Yamato. Looks more anatomically proportioned, better proportioned. Nice painted detail inside the cockpit, nice clear plastic inserts there, nice paint on top here, all of that very nice. You also get now a VTOL fan ability, so we can pull this piece forward, it's very stiff, and then we can lift up and expose those VTOL vents behind the cockpit. So that's pretty cool too. I wasn't a huge fan of the method of installing the booster on the Yamato toys, and Arcadia has simply used that same method again. So you have to get a toothpick or something and push up on these little holes here to remove a panel from the wing that then allows you to install the booster. And you can see I've had my pylon weapon fall off, and I also have a hard point underneath for this mid-range missile that I can pop on now and fully outfit the vehicle, which is pretty good. Hinge is solid enough to stay on there. The little tab behind the hinge, or the wing here, isn't long enough. It pops out far too often for my like. You now have articulated little nozzle or exhaust vectoring at the back of the booster, which is kind of cool, although I find myself constantly knocking them and having to reposition them. So a little more thought necessary than on the Yamato version where these are fixed. And also these pop out, and some of them pop out a little too easily. So I've actually found them on the paper after handling the toy. This is a sold separately Arcadia simple display stand. There's also an Arcadia launch arm display stand that you can get. This is the gear walk mode adapter. You pull the intakes out a little bit, push that into place. In fighter mode, you then take the fighter mode adapter and install that on, and then you can put the whole thing onto an Arcadia display stand. And knocking these things off is going to be something that frequently happens to you. Not a huge deal, you just pop it back on. Part of it is because it's such a large piece that goes way off the wing. The other part is because they don't hold on as well as they should. So there you go. One of the things you may have noticed is that Arcadia gives us smaller micro missile launchers for the internal point, whereas Yamato gave us all four, sort of the combined fuel tank and micro missile launcher. So they're all the same size. So that's a difference between the two. Yamato also gave you a display stand, and the display stand has such a big arm that you could put the toy basically vertical, like in the submarine launch pose that I currently have it in. And you can't really do that with the Arcadia simple display stand. What you'll need to do instead is have the toy fall off the back of the display stand and then just put the feet on the ground like so. Now, one of the benefits of using these smaller micro missile launchers is that they won't interfere with the vertical stabilizer quite as much as they do on the Yamato, but really that's the only benefit from it. It's probably more just an accuracy change. Here it is, fully decked out in fighter mode. It's doing all right. It does even better if you have it less decked out. These pylons will certainly knock off if I bump them, and there's a whole bunch of stuff on here that you have to be careful of as you handle the toy. The hinges on the wings, bumping these down, even if the wings are flat out with only the large pylons at the end, you still have to be a little conscious of them. Again, these tabs at the base of the wings, not really long enough so you can see they're popping out on me. The vertical stabilizers move freely, so if I bump them in several different directions, they're gonna be a problem. I've already shown you these little booster flaps can be a problem. So a lot of stuff that can be annoying as you handle the toy. But the primary concern, does the toy hold together in fighter mode and do the wings flop over? The wings are stiff enough hinged that they're not flopping around, and everything is locking together well enough where I don't have anything flopping down on me. So strong in that respect, but not super fun to handle due to all the stuff that can move around on you. Gear walk mode looks very imposing. There is a lot of great articulation to get your money's worth out of this particular mode. There's still some stuff that's going to move around a little easily on you, like the canards and those vertical stabilizers. The wings can be rocked very easily. So you're going to be fiddling with this quite a bunch as you handle it, but it does make a very nice display piece. The big articulation improvement from the Yamato is this double jointed elbow. So now you have the ability to bend in both ways and get a much steeper angle on the elbow, which is good. You also have a reconfigured shoulder so that you can get this armor much steeper here, and it moves around and it's stiff in every position. There's a pivot point right below it. All of that is good, makes for a nice solid shoulder and arm joint. Unfortunately, the tabs for the intakes do pop out a little bit on me. And I also had an issue with one of these hinges here, which got fatigued somehow during transformation. Probably my fault, but don't push down on these to try to settle them into place on top of these arm hinges, or else you might break something. I don't want to call it broken, but mine is definitely loose now, and that is a joint that shouldn't be loose. Still not really impacting my ability to enjoy gear walk mode, but something to watch out for. Another thing, getting the gun into the hand is pretty tricky, and once it's there, the rotation point at the shoulder is a little loose. So my toy has a hard time keeping that gun up unless I angle the arm differently. You certainly can attach all of the extras on gear walk mode, but it is a little dicey. There's a lot of weight on these hinges, so things can, particularly right around here, fall back on you as you handle the toy. You can see it's doing a pretty decent job right now, so it's certainly possible, but you're not going to get much whoosh factor out of gear walk mode fully loaded. You do have the ability to pull the head back and do that whole looking around the corner thing that we do see in one of the episodes of Macross Zero. All right, let's check out how Batroid does. This is the gun for fighter mode configuration. Then for Batroid or gear walk, we bring the handle down, slide the magazines forward. Each magazine slides independently and is independently removable. You don't have the little flip out pegs that you had on the Yamato, which could prove pretty annoying. What is annoying though is putting the gun on the toy's hand. So there's a couple little tips for you. First, let's just look at the hand. It is the Yamato 148 VF1 style hand where you have a couple fingers attached, independent pinky, trigger, and thumbs. There is a hinge at the wrist. The attachment's kind of a ball joint, but this is a sliding mechanism, so it's a little frustrating if you want to pop the hand off, put it on the gun, and then pop it back on again. There's also this gigantic cover on one side of the hand that would limit the usefulness of this hand in any sort of real world scenario. It would have been nice if Arcadia had come up with a way to move this cover back and away. It's actually back and away in the line art. Similar with these vertical stabilizers, it would be nice if they could slide or pivot and get further down on the arm instead of where they are. So as it is right now, if I went to put this gun on, it would be pretty difficult. What you want to do is twist the arm so the magazines aren't going to hit your vertical stabilizers. There's a slot and a peg, and you have to line everything up. And I'm not going to make you suffer through watching me do it, but it's definitely tricky. But once it gets on there, it's pretty solid, but you're going to be limited in how you angle it by the vertical stabilizers. And if you ever pop it loose, you're going to be a little frustrated with yourself. The Arcadia toy definitely has improved articulation over the Yamato, although there's still a few things that I'm not thrilled with. The biggest issue for me was the head. As you can see in this line art, the head kind of rocks to the side, which would be something we could do if we had a ball jointed head, but there's still no ball joint here. And the position of the neck and the head is just a little bit awkward, so I'm not really thrilled with that. You can turn the head to look in either direction, and you've seen you can play with that accordion to get the head in kind of different spots, make it look up. Can't really make it look down too much, the chest is there, but you get the idea. Shoulder spins, but we also have that pivot point away from the body and towards the body there. And then, yeah, you're gonna knock your hinges with your big shoulder pivots right here. That gets that nice angle. Then moving down, we have the twist point. I've shown you the double jointed elbow. This point here moves to let you get that full range. So you should be able to get this flush on either side if you're not just pushed down on that centerpiece to get that nice, not quite 180 degrees of motion, but definitely more than you could do with the Yamato. You've seen the hands and the vertical stabilizers. There is no waist to speak of, but we do have hips that flare out and allow you to get a really wide stance, which is great. You also have the ability, obviously, to come forward and back until you run into something, and they're very stiff, so no problem holding the toy up. Everything's doing just fine there. There's a twist point above the knee. The knee itself, I have fully collapsed. If you extend it out, it's gonna look like a very lanky vehicle, but if you're doing something for articulation points, you've seen this. This is the gear walk joint in action. Now it's allowing you more than 90 degrees of knee movement, which is always nice to have in a Batroid. You've seen I've lost my weapon, which is not that big a deal. So that's a very stiff joint. I will close that back up so it's not super lanky. Knee pads come out, you'll bump them in, no big deal. Foot comes out, it doesn't really twist, which is a little bit of a bummer. Individually articulated toes, both at the bottom and top, which is cool. There's a little bit of a rock back and forth, and certainly a pivot forward and back. Between the toes and all of those foot motions, you'll be able to get this thing into some pretty aggressive looking poses. And as it is a very aggressive looking vehicle, that's going to work out pretty nice for your displays. Here I've got the toy on the sold separately simple Macross Arcadia display stand. And like Gearwalk mode, when you fully deck it out, it can make a gorgeous display piece, but it's very finicky to handle. All of this stuff can be bumped askew or knocked back very easily. Like that's probably more the natural resting position. So you can get it there, it's stiff enough, but if you bump it, it will fall back. Speaking of Gearwalk, I do have the Gearwalk joint employed. I didn't show that during my little articulation breakdown, but it's there. A lot less necessary on the SV-51 than on other toys where the wings are behind it and the leg can't move as freely. On this, I could have just as easily kept rotating the leg. But here you are. The arm that I complained about being loose, that's holding the gun, even this arm, not holding a gun at all, is loose. So that's not ideal by any stretch of the imagination. Gorgeous toy, but don't expect really fun handling. So you saw the wings crooked with everything on there. You can also lay the wings flat. Everything holds together. It's nice and stiff. Will it stay that way? We will have to wait and see. There's some articulation improvements here that make Gearwalk and Batroid a little bit more fun. So is this better than the Yamato version? You know, if we ignore the snafu with the ankle manufacturer, yeah, obviously this is an improvement over the Yamato. Unfortunately, the price increase is really substantial and the improvements are pretty minor. With Arcadia's VF-0, it felt like it was a new generation of toy over the Yamato VF-0. With the SV-51, it feels more like a version 2 effort rather than that generational leap. For the price, there are loads of better toys that you can acquire, so this one is for die-hard Macross Zero or SV-51 enthusiasts only. If you liked this review, hit that like button for me. If you didn't like this review, leave a comment. Let me know what I'm doing wrong. Subscribe and check out anymoon.com for more content, and as always, thanks for watching.